Now it's not hundreds of thousands. Now it's tens of millions of people are seeing, reading, hearing the confrontation that happened with Mayor Pete Buttigieg, presidential candidate, and the open sodomite. We're going to comment on it, and hopefully it'll be a learning moment for you. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. Do you believe in the Bible? Do you believe that Sodom and Gomorrah were punished by fire? It's a simple question, and it's a yes-no question. Archaeologists have found Sodom and Gomorrah, and they have a theory now that a meteor exploded over the city and rained down the fire and brimstone. They know the place existed. They know that the place was destroyed by fire. And now the theory is that it was a meteor. All I can say is God's quite a shot, isn't he? So, if you say yes, that you believe in the Bible and that you believe in Sodom and Gomorrah. By the way, if you don't believe in the Bible and you don't believe in Sodom and Gomorrah, then this is not for you. You can go on your pagan way and you can follow your pagan deeds. For you, you are God. You get to decide what's right and wrong. You get to choose what is good and evil. And of course, you get to condemn those who choose a different good and evil than you do, especially if they call something that you love or embrace bad, evil. So, for those who do believe in the Bible, if Sodom and Gomorrah really existed, if the punishment of God upon them is true, how does that affect us today? In the Gospels, I believe that there are 4 references of our Lord Jesus Christ affirming that Sodom and Gomorrah happened and that they were judged. 4 references. So clearly Jesus isn't lying. Unless, of course, you're a Christian who thinks that, I don't know how you could do this, but you're a Christian who thinks that there are things in the Bible that just aren't true. At that point, I don't know how you could differentiate between whether Jesus was born of a Virgin Mary or rose from the dead, but I digress. I mean, it's all there in the Bible. Either the Bible's true or it's not true. And then if you get to pick and choose which stories are true, I just don't get that. So anyway, forgive me for digressing. Jesus affirmed this judgment. I was lying in bed this morning thinking about a pro-life activist named Rob Schenck, who was arrested in Operation Rescue, helped us show aborted babies to people, and he recently became pro-abortion. And I was laying in bed thinking about him, and I thought, there's 2 things that will be hot on the heels of that declaration. He was on NPR, National Public Radio. 2 things will be on the heels of that. One is that marriage between people of the same gender is okay. He's going to come out with that, I promise you. That's my prediction. And 2 is that hell does not exist, that there is no hell. If you have ever been to the Sistine Chapel or seen pictures of it, you see the Last Judgment. You see Christ with his hand up, and he is sending the lost souls into the lake of fire. And the souls of the redeemed are going up to heaven. If the gospel is true, the good news is that we can be forgiven, that we can have eternal life. But that good news becomes really good news when you understand that there's a hell, that there is a place of eternal punishment. It got so bad recently when the Pope made some statement about hell not existing that Rush Limbaugh, God love him, greatest broadcaster in my lifetime, Rush Limbaugh was on the air saying, if hell does not exist, then why did Jesus have to die for us? So if hell exists and Sodom and Gomorrah was real, and those sins that were being committed in Sodom and Gomorrah that is referred to, those sins that are referred to in Ezekiel chapter 16, in Leviticus chapter 18, in Deuteronomy chapter 28, that those sins that God calls abominations, men lying with men having carnal relations with men. Look at Romans chapter 1, all right, to look very closely. If heaven and hell are real, and Sodom and Gomorrah were real, then Pete Buttigieg is in real trouble. He's in real trouble as a man. He's in danger of hellfire. But beyond that, he is being used by dark forces, evil forces, to try and normalize and glorify a lifestyle that is evil. Now, I want you to picture Sodom and Gomorrah. God said, I'm going to send down some angels to see if the cry that's come up before me is true. Is it really this bad? So the cry of this sin is ascending into heaven. The angels come down. Righteous Lot, the Bible says, his soul was vexed. Lot's soul was vexed by the immoral, evil behavior that was going on around him. People of Sodom and Gomorrah did not like Lot. They were angry with him. And I can see them backbiting. I can see them cajoling. I can see them mocking. I can see them vilifying him. Who do you think you are? You're a foreigner. You're a stranger. You come here and now you're going to rule over us? You see, you remember the quotes? So I'm going to show you some of the press. And I want to talk to you. I did a really great interview with a local radio station in Fort Dodge, AM 1400. He said that it was going to be on his webpage. He said it was going to be on his Facebook, AM 1400 in Fort Dodge, Iowa. He was the only journalist after the poop hit the fan with Buttigieg. He was the only journalist who took the time to interview me and quote me. The rest of the journalists, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, they were off their rocker. I'm going to talk about it because it's actually funny. And it's sad. But he asked me a series of questions that were great, in about a 15 or 20-minute interview. And I'm going to refer to some of those questions when we get back. Please don't go away. This is a learning moment, and I'm going to challenge you. What are you going to do if the Bible is true? Don't go away. Introducing Roxy Guitar. If you're a guitar or bass player, whether you play acoustic or electric, check out Roxy Guitar. I've been playing for over 40 years and seen guitar stores all over America. I've never seen a store like Roxy Guitar. Roxy Guitar has over 700 guitars in stock, over 1,500 pedals, over 200 amps. For the beginner or price-conscious buyer, there's Michael Kelly guitars. For the serious player or professional, Roxy Guitar has the finest selection of guitar lines I've ever seen. You know I love Warrior guitars. Roxy Guitar has over 100 Warriors in stock. They have Heritage, G&L, Gretsch, John Sears, BC Rich, Duesenberg, Dean, legendary guitars at great prices, including pre-owned Gibsons, Fenders, and more. Let them know you heard about Roxy Guitar from Randall Terry and receive 10% or more off your purchase on select items. Go to roxyguitar.com. Welcome back, friend. We just came back from Iowa where we disrupted all four of Pete Buttigieg's events, 3 from the inside and 1 on the outside, with me dressed as the devil. Now, and I'm as close as me to this lens to him, talking to him with my devil costume on, saying, I support you, Mayor Pete. Yes, you're doing a great job. You might not like the way we do it. Okay? What way are you doing it? Let's come back to that. When he first got confronted by Gary Boyclair at the first meeting in Iowa, headlines ran all over the country, literally all over the country, saying, religious protester confronts presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg. The news was he was confronted by someone saying you have betrayed your baptismal vow. Remember the baptismal vow? Do you renounce Satan and all his works? That's part of the baptismal vow with the Apostles' Creed. So Gary was in his face saying, you have betrayed your baptismal vow. Then he looked at the grandparents and said, grandparents, do you want your grandchildren to follow this man's example? And then he said, this man supports the murder of babies. So that story got out all over the country. And the headline, literally all over the country, was Pete Buttigieg confronted, a religious protester confronts Pete Buttigieg. Then they circled the wagons. Now I want you to understand, I was interviewed, stand-up, calm, quiet interview with CNN, NBC Evening News. I don't even know what other journalists. There were so many journalists there, I literally don't know who they were from. But I want you to watch and see how the headlines have shifted. Now, the reason that this is important is because 30 years ago, the thought of homosexual marriage, I was predicting it, all right? I was prophesying that it would come. But to the average American, it was unthinkable. Just 30 years ago, unthinkable. But now, there's been a seismic shift, and the evildoers, the God haters who support the killing of babies, the ones that are in charge of major universities, that are running our public schools for teenagers, they have done such a great job indoctrinating young people that the journalists that were interviewing me from CNN, from wherever, they were livid, filled with vitriol and hatred. I'm talking journalists. And watch the headline changes. And again, I'm going to go back. No, you know what? I'll read the headline changes when I come back. Let me talk about the journalists up in Fort Dodge. I told him when we were all done, I said, you are like Larry King. Larry King was the best interviewer because he would ask a question and then let the interviewer talk. That's what this man did to me. He said, so why'd you do this? Because we want the debate. We want the message out. My message is to get to Christians who are Democrats, Roman Catholics, evangelicals, mainline Protestants, to get to people who are baptized in the name of the Holy Trinity, to get to them, to get inside their brain and to say to them that you cannot endorse or vote for a candidate who sheds innocent blood, promotes murder by abortion, can't support that candidate, or who promotes same-gender matrimony, the lie of same-sex marriage. Those two sins, if the Bible is true, those two sins cry to God for vengeance. If you as a Christian vote for somebody who promotes the two sins that cry to God for vengeance, you are part of that sin. You have voted in such a way that cries to God for vengeance. Your vote literally does. So that's the answer I gave him on that. And he said, why do you think Pete Buttigieg is such a dangerous man? To which I said, all of the Democrat candidates, he asked me, are any of the Democrat candidates acceptable to you? I said, absolutely not. Every single one of them, as a matter of policy, supports homosexual marriage and the killing of babies. Every single one of them. So therefore, no, I could not vote for any of them. Then I said, but Pete Buttigieg is way more dangerous for American children than any other Democrat candidate. Why is that? Because he's the beautiful face of evil. The handsome face of evil. They've never had a poster boy. The homosexual militants have never had a poster boy. The lesbians had Ellen DeGeneres, the talk show host, comedian. She is funny, she's articulate, she's attractive. The homosexuals, I mean, really and truly, would they have Freddie Mercury from Queen? Liberace? They've just never had, the guy from Star Trek, they've never had somebody who has that Midwestern vibe. And this is their man. This is their man. So there are school kids all over this country right now that have been hearing about what a hero Pete Buttigieg is and how that they can experiment with their sexuality. Maybe they're homosexuals. That's what's going on, people. That's why he's such a danger. Because when you offer children tantalizing temptations, many of them will drift into them, whether it's pornography, drugs, alcohol, sexual misconduct, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual. Children will drift into and go down these paths because people are dangling it out in front of them and making it look appealing. It's the truth. That's why he's so dangerous, and that's why we've got to continue to oppose him. When we come back, we'll go over the headlines with you. I think you're going to get a kick out of this. Please don't go away.
I also want to speak tonight directly to Muslims throughout the world. We respect your faith. Its teachings are good and peaceful. And those who commit evil in the name of Allah blaspheme the name of Allah.
We have reaffirmed again and again that the United States is not and never will be at war with Islam. Islam teaches peace.
Islam is a religion of peace. They are not Muslims, they are monsters.
We've been told that Muslim terrorists have hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam. But Islamic art and literature tell a very different story. To know the truth, we only have to study the narrative of the founder of Islam, Muhammad, in his own words. We have literally been covered in the past 48 hours in newspaper publications, not just all over America, but in England and Europe as well. Because of this fascination with the potential for the first openly gay homosexual, as if this has been going on for centuries, as if the homosexual lifestyle is something normal. It's gotten so perverse, and the fear of the Christian community of being mocked has made us so paralyzed that they are controlling the playing field, except for a few lunatics like me and my associates. I'm going to do everything I can to revive people, I promise you. But let's take a look at some of these headlines, because this is funny. So the first wave of headlines that went all over America, literally, were religious protester confronts Pete Buttigieg. You betrayed your baptism. That resonated with people. It resonated with newspapers. They were running it. But then the editors of these various publications got together and they said, no. We're not going to let that happen. So USA Today, how Pete Buttigieg handled anti-gay protesters shouting about Sodom and Gomorrah. Pete Buttigieg, this is CNN, Pete Buttigieg faces down anti-gay chants in Iowa. You betray your baptism. Mayor Pete Buttigieg confronted by religious protester. Oh, there it is. By the way, there's the accidental one. That's the one. And guess where that came from? It came from local news in Fort Dodge. I've got to go on this rabbit trail because it's important. I was saying on my show Tuesday that I know that there are good journalists still alive, but they're in the local small communities around the country. They're honest. And so what you see is the local newspaper coverage and TV coverage that we got around Iowa was honest coverage. What we saw in NBC, MSNBC, CNN, Esquire, USA Today, it's dishonest. They're lying. They're lying by their neglect. They're shooting the protester, or they're shooting the messenger, me. It's almost comical. So here, let's see. Here's CBS. Pete Buttigieg takes on hecklers in Iowa after launching presidential bid. Here's one called Hurrahs. I don't know what that is. Pete Buttigieg shuts down anti-gay hecklers at Iowa event. Here's Politico. Pete Buttigieg storms Iowa, shrugs off hecklers. Pete Buttigieg impersonator whips Jesus in bizarre anti-gay protest. Lord, please forgive me for laughing. It's just so funny. They are so demented, deluded, perverse in their thinking. They are living Romans chapter 1. God handing them over. Read Romans chapter 1, people. Read it. Read Romans chapter 1. It's only one small chapter in the Bible. It'll take you all 5 minutes, 4 minutes. Read it. God handing them over to a depraved mind because when they knew the truth of God, they rejected it and they became rebels. CNN has gone out of its way. USA Today, the article in USA Today was so long and it was about me. Thank God, there was one quote in USA Today that said the reason we're doing this is to wake up Christians so that they realize that they cannot vote for someone who supports the murder of babies. But the article in CNN, the article in Esquire, the article in New York Magazine, they were just blistering attacks on me. Not about the content. They weren't even quoting me. Now, mind you, I had face-to-face confrontations with Pete Buttigieg. Face-to-face with the presidential candidate. As close as I am to this camera. And I rattled him, people. I'm telling you, I saw his face. I rattled him, but they didn't cover any of that. They just wanted to make him look like this brave knight in shining sodomite honor, coming to rescue small children who are trapped in the closet, and that they too can come out and be homosexual and perhaps rise to the level of our hero, Pete Buttigieg, who shall one day be the first openly gay president of the United States. Watch him shut down hecklers. Pete Buttigieg is our hero. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life. Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700 or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Introducing Roxy Guitar. If you're a guitar or bass player, whether you play acoustic or electric, check out Roxy Guitar. I've been playing for over 40 years and seen guitar stores all over America. I've never seen a store like Roxy Guitar. Roxy Guitar has over 700 guitars in stock, over 1,500 pedals, over 200 amps. For the beginner or price-conscious buyer, there's Michael Kelly guitars. For the serious player or professional, Roxy Guitar has the finest selection of guitar lines I've ever seen. You know I love Warrior guitars. Roxy Guitar has over 100 Warriors in stock. They have Heritage, G&L, Gretsch, John Sears, BC Rich, Duesenberg, Dean, legendary guitars at great prices, including pre-owned Gibsons, Fenders, and more. Let them know you heard about Roxy Guitar from Randall Terry and receive 10% or more off your purchase on select items. Go to roxyguitar.com. Let your joy be turned to sorrow and your laughter be turned to weeping. That's what the Apostle James wrote. This is a moment of horror for our country. I knew that it was getting bad with the pro-abortion, pro-homosexual press. But this is the first time that I have been in national news in a big way since the Obergefell decision, the homosexual marriage decision from the Supreme Court. And the roots of the Obama era and the roots of these journalists in evil, in the taproot of evil, have gotten so strong. It's a time to grieve and to weep. And if you believe the book of Genesis and you believe Christ affirming the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah, then you should grieve and weep over this man, Pete Buttigieg. Grieve for him and grieve about him. And then I ask you again, what are you going to do to help stop him and confront him? Well, God bless you.
Mm-hmm.